First of all, as far as I'm concerned, of course, it's a kind of special day for me. The first time I have the opportunity as a new CEO to host you, to give a keynote on what we see about Schneider. I feel very honored, and of course, I thank very much the board of Schneider in trusting me in this new position. Feel also very excited, a lot of responsibility, of course, but very exciting because this company has a unique positioning, and that's what I'm going to, of course, describe to you today. And you know a lot already about Schneider Electric. And it's a very exciting time, of course, between the positioning of the company, the purpose that we have, the portfolio that we have created, and the geographical footprint that we have. We believe it's a unique time for our company. Now, I'm sure a lot of you have some question. What's going to happen? Am I going to change everything? What is the positioning of the company? But I want to also to come back on what Ami said. My life has been pretty much associated to the development of the company. So it's not that I'm new to Schneider. I've been leading the strategy. I've been leading business. I've been leading ESG. And I've been, of course, participating to what I'm going to share with you. So I'm, first of all, extremely committed to the purpose and the mission of the company. It's not going to change. On the contrary, I do believe our positioning, when we say our purpose, is to create impact by empowering all and make the most of energy and resources, bridging progress and sustainability for all. You can connect, by the way, very much to what Mr. Kent has said about India. This purpose continues to be extremely relevant. It speaks a lot to all our stakeholders, to our customers, to our employees, and all our environment, and we are really, really committed to that. The second point, which is very, very important, when we created a couple of years ago our mission to be a digital partner, a trusted partner in sustainability and efficiency, it's very, very important. We were one of the few companies in the world a couple of years ago to believe that the climate transition will be a must for every country in the world. And there will be no climate transition without energy transition, and there will be no energy transition without digital. And that's why we've created that position based on a unique portfolio to make sure we can help all our customers in every segment, small, medium, large customer, in all geography, to go through their climate transition, to go through energy transition and bring any efficiency in everything they do. So we are committed to that positioning, both on the purpose and the mission. And of course, what is the most important today is how we are going to accelerate the execution of our strategy. Now, if you look at the trends, and it's very important that every year we refresh in front of you the view we have on what's happening in the world. You have already a lot of good insight from Mr. Kant about the way he sees India versus the rest of the world. Of course, all those trends that we have explained to you 1 year ago in our Capital Market Day in Tottenham are still very, very true. There is no change. We continue to see an acceleration of the climate transition, the energy transition, all of that being amplified in everything you see in digital. Of course, we'll talk a lot about AI, the opportunity it represents for Schneider on the infrastructure side, but also how it helps Schneider Electric to amplify all the value proposition for our customer. So when we look at all those trends that we've presented to you 1 year ago, we believe they continue to be a very natural driver to the expansion of our market, and we confirm that opportunity we see, which is an acceleration of our market by 27 in the range of 6 to 7%. So we continue to be very, very convinced that there is an acceleration in all our market. Now, going a bit more in detail on what we see in the end market, we see that we continue to see a very, very strong dynamic with a double-digit growth on the data center and networks. That's something also we presented to you 1 year ago. On the other extreme, we see also on the infrastructure all the need that you need in power, in grid, because of electrification everywhere in the world. And these are going to be the two major drivers on the growth of our end market. At the same time, in the middle, we continue to see very solid growth in buildings, both in home, commercial buildings. Of course, it will be slightly different geography by geography. We know that it's not going to grow at the same speed, but we believe it's still a very good positive momentum in those markets, together with the industrial sector. And as you know, the industrial sector was probably suffering a little bit in the past year, and we start to see early sign of recovery, and we'll come back on that tomorrow. But we believe those two segments continue to be growth driver. So why I'm sharing that with all of you today is just to confirm that the long-term commitment we presented to you 1 year ago are still very valid, and we see for Schneider Electric an opportunity to deliver 7 to 10% growth through the cycle by 27, and to continue to have very strong and robust development of our margin. So that's very important, and I wanted to start by that, sharing with you that the purpose and the mission is extremely relevant and continue to be relevant. We continue to see an acceleration of our end market, and we continue to see that the target we've shared with you to go through the next cycle 1 year ago are still very relevant for Schneider Electric. The next point, which is very, very important, I would like to confirm that our capital allocation priorities remain the same. Number one, we'll continue to make strong investment in our credit ratings. We'll continue with a very progressive dividend strategy, which has been the case for the past 14 years. And also, we'll continue to fund our organic growth, both on the supply chain side, to continue to build capacity to support this important growth cycle, but also on the R&D side, and I'm going to come back on that one in a couple of minutes. Last but not the least, we have a very strong practice at Schneider on portfolio management, so we'll continue to look at everything which is in our portfolio, making sure we have a very healthy way to manage our portfolio, like we have done in the past 3 years. And at the same time, and I want to confirm that, we will look at opportunity, of course, of M&A whenever it makes sense. But important point, which is mentioned on the slide, in all the growth ambition that we show to you by 27, they don't rely on major M&A activity in the next 3 years. But of course, we'll watch and we'll stay and we'll look all the possible opportunity. So just to confirm that our capital allocation priority remain the same, we are committed to it, and it's very, very important. So what I would like to shift now is to tell you what are we doing to transform the company? What does it mean on the technology side? What does it mean on the customer side? What does it mean on the impact side, on the ESG side, but also on the people side? 1 year ago, we came in front of you to say we are transforming our company to be the industrial tech leader. It remains very, very relevant. And I'm not going to spend a lot of time to share tons of data on what we see in the market, but what I can tell you is what we see very, very, very clearly is an acceleration of this climate transition and energy transition. As we used to say, some people are doing it on the long term to achieve their net zero goals, but that there is at the same time a very strong focus on energy everywhere in the world, on energy security, on how to save energy everywhere in the world. And we are absolutely convinced at Schneider Electric that it is possible to make it happen. It is possible to develop our customers, to make them more sustainable. And this combination of electricity and digital is the absolute solution. I'm sure you've heard it from Schneider Electric many, many times. What I'm going to go through now a bit more in details in how we make it happen and what is very different in the positioning of our company to make it happen for our customer. We see 4 key pillars in the way we drive the transformation of our company to deliver a unique solution to our customer. First of all, on the technology side. Secondly, on the way we are bringing that to our customer, the unique model we have to bring solution to our customer. The way we make Schneider Electric a very different company by being an impact company. So commitment we take for ourselves, but being part of the solution for our customer. And last, the people side, which is very, very important because I do believe we have a unique way at managing Schneider Electric. So let me go through the technology transformation. You've heard many times about our digital flywheel, and it's very, very important because it's not just something that we are showing to you, it's something that we are using internally to transform our company in the way we communicate with our salespeople, in the way we communicate with our people in technology. And it's very, very important because that represents how we are transforming the entire portfolio of Schneider Electric. For those of you who have been following Schneider for many, many years, we've been very well known for a company having a huge portfolio of product and equipment, but all our strategy in the past 10, 15 years has been leveraging that unique position that we have everywhere in the world, dealing with customers everywhere in the world, how we can transform this portfolio to create more intimacy with our customer, to deliver more values to our customer through services and also leveraging digital to generate more opportunity for our customer. And we keep on looking at that flywheel as really the key metric on how we move our portfolio. And our ambition is to make sure that everything which is part of this digital flywheel should be in the range of 60-65% by 27. It's very, very important because we embark in that transformation all the business model of Schneider. So I'm going to talk in a minute about product, about equipment, services, about what we do also in system, in digital. But it's very, very important because we want to embark all the dimension of the company, all the entity of the company, because it requires a drastic transformation on the way we are developing our offer for our customer. Of course, it has a very important benefit at the end of the day. It creates much more intimacy with our customer. It creates also much more recurring revenues with our customer. On one side, with what we do in our software portfolio, but also in what we do in digital services, which I'm going to explain a little bit more in a minute. So now, if you go on the technology, what does it mean at Schneider Electric? We've presented to you that slide that we call the EcoStruxure stack, which is the way we explain to our customer. If we were in front of a customer today, we'll explain how EcoStruxure is a unique set of solutions that we can deliver in home, in building, in data center, infrastructure, in industry. So EcoStruxure is basically developed from a technology standpoint for all different end segments. And the value prop we bring to our customer, of course, is different on all those end segments. What we have created at Schneider Electric is a stack of technology from the products which were historically not connected to more and more connectable products, which are amplified through automation, and in the past cycle that we have continued to amplify through services and digital. So that's something we've been presenting for a couple of years. It has been a massive transformation for our customer, but it has been a massive transformation internally. So what does it mean from a technology standpoint? It means that we are making sure that we don't develop all the components of EcoStruxure in parallel universe. It's not possible anymore in the world of today like we were doing probably 15, 20 years ago, when you develop a breaker and equipment on one side, for low voltage and medium voltage, you develop a UPS on the other side, and then you think about services, and so on and so forth. The way we are doing R&D at Schneider Electric, between industrial automation and energy management, is to make sure that we look at all the components of our product development, of our R&D, to make sure that it makes a lot of sense for our customers. So you will see a couple of examples later on, but from a technology standpoint, what does it mean? We want to make sure that every single product that we develop in the future is connectable. And of course, ideally should be connected. But what is more important is when those products are connected together, we want to make sure that the customer experience for the customer will be fantastic, which means that the gateway will have to be standardized to make sure they speak the same language to the customer. We want to make sure the user experience for the customer is a great user experience. We want, for instance, to give you an example, to make sure all our assets, all our product equipment, they are serviceable by design. 15 years ago, we used to launch product, and 5 years later, we think about the serviceability of the asset. Today, we embark that upfront in our R&D development. So what is very, very important, we want to make sure that everything we do in R&D between energy management and industrial automation is connected to make sure at the end of the day, it's easy for the customer to consume. It's easy to use, and that we deliver that unique value proposition segment by segment, customer type by customer type. So what does it mean in the way we are transforming our portfolio? As I said, we continue to develop products which are more and more connectable. We put much more focus on all our automation activities in our portfolio. As you know, when we presented to you all our strategy in field services that we have in the past 10 years to create more intimacy with our customer, to propose maintenance contract. But the next big way for us is to make sure those services are more and more digital. And why it's possible? It's possible because when you sell assets which are connectable, it's very easy now to activate a services contract at the same time when you sell the equipment to the customer, which was not possible 10, 15 years ago. The next thing which is important, we are not just selling contract for the sake of selling contract. We make sure that we have data which are relevant for our customer. We make sure that thanks to those data, we can provide preventive maintenance, for instance, to our customer. And you will see many examples in the back tomorrow where we show you in a very concrete manner how we can extract those data and make them relevant to our customer. Where Schneider, of course, is very, very different than the many other tech players is because we understand how things work. We know how it works in industry, we understand how it works in data center, we understand how it works in building, and we can make a lot of sense from the data. It's not only about extracting the data, it's making sure that we can compare, that we can amplify those data thanks to artificial intelligence, and we can create a very different value at the end of the day for the customer. And the last piece, of course, which was very important for us, is make sure that we don't stop only at that level, but that we create a very, very strong software platform, you know, what we call Connect, our industrial intelligence platform, where we can connect all the software portfolio that we have at Schneider and go to the next level to the value prop to our customer. What is very, very important at Schneider, you know, historically, we like to present this EcoStruxure stack from the bottom to the top, because that's a bit the history of the company. But what is very important strategically on how we position with our customer, you can enter in this EcoStruxure stack from every level. I can give you an example. We have developed probably, and you know that, strong consulting capabilities with our sustainability business. So we do consulting at enterprise level to help large companies to build their net zero strategy. That's one way to enter, for instance, in a discussion with customer. We can enter with a customer in data center to design, co-design the architecture of the data center of the future with hyperscaler. We can enter through Aveva One software. We can enter from the product side. What is very, very important, and the way we position Schneider Electric very, very differently, we want to make sure not only we provide a unique stack of solutions to give the best value to our customer, but they can enter and work with Schneider on the different layers. And of course, our job at the end of the day is once a customer is with us, is to make sure that we can optimize and we can sell as much as possible from our portfolio. And that's what we are doing with our geographical organization. Our job on R&D was to develop the platform. The job of our sales guy is to make sure that when they are in front of the customer, of course, they can make the most of that portfolio. And I'll give you a couple of examples in a much more concrete manner on what we are doing. So just to summarize on this technology pillar, it has been really our focus, and it continues to be our focus, to make sure we transform our R&D to support the development of this EcoStruxure stack, which is very, very differentiated. So your question could be, what have we done differently in the past years, and what are we doing differently? I said already a little bit. We just make sure that we align all R&D organization to those strategic priorities. I've given already a couple of examples. It means that all our new R&D development should be very much linked to our sustainability priority. What does it mean? What is the scope 3 upstream and downstream of a new product that we bring to the market? What is the environmental impact of those new products? What are the saved and avoided emissions that a new product can give to the customer? Just one example. I've shared already about the serviceability of the asset, making sure that every R&D program starts by what will be the serviceability of the asset. Going to the concept of circularity. You launch a new circuit breaker in the market. How can you retrofit eventually 5 or 10 years later this circuit breaker to create a loop of circularity? And of course, digital being everywhere, because we don't imagine a world in the future where every single product could be connectable and of course connected ideally. What is very, very important for a company like us, it's make sure that we don't do R&D for the sake of R&D, but make sure we bring the customer in everything we do. 3-4 years ago, we launched this big agile transformation in R&D, which is really one objective was to bring the customer much more in our discussion, but also to create much more efficiency and agility in the way we do R&D. Execution, I just mentioned it, the objective was really to make sure we go faster. We are in a market where we cannot wait for 10 years to bring a next generation of products, so the speed and the agility of execution was very, very important for us. And at the end of the day, we are still in a very competitive market. You are, by the way, in India, which is an extremely competitive market. So it's also very important in everything that we do in R&D that this design to cost, this cost obsession is very, very important from the development of product to the industrialization. And to be very clear with you, we put a lot of rigor in performance management to make sure we maximize the return on investment. And when you see at the bottom of the chart, We have increased and we continue to increase our commitment in R&D. So we want to put more fund, more organic fund to support the R&D transformation of the company. But it was super important for me, especially when I was leading energy management, that we have very, very strong basics when it comes to performance management, that we maximize the return on investments. Not just about launching more and more products, it's about making sure that it impacts strategically, but it delivers the right return on investment. Of course, we've been working a lot also on the R&D, on the resilience part of the agenda in the past year. Needless to mention to you that the COVID has been a big acid test on the way we maintain a very resilient company, working with our colleague Mourad also on the supply chain. And of course, the topic of global, local, geopolitics is a very important topic for Schneider Electric, and we have always made sure that R&D and our supply chain can be as close as possible to the different market, what we call the multi-hub model, and I will re-explain later, to make sure we can be very, very resilient. And it's very, very important when you're a global company like Schneider. You will hear me a lot talking about global strategy, global strategic priority. The transformation have to be defined at the global level. A certain number of global priority also when it comes to resource allocation. But also the way we implement that strategy is to make sure that we are as close as possible to the different hubs, which are North America, China, international, which is led by India, and Europe. And it's very, very, very important for us because this is how you answer to the needs of the customer and how you make it happen. And last but not the least, because sometimes there are people who are asking the question on what it is to be a global and local company. While we want to have this global strategy, but on the other side, we want to stick to the regional market, we want to make sure we have a certain number of fundamentals when it comes to platforming that we respect, because there are sometimes some activities, some products where it's much better to have a global platform, to take 3-4 years to develop that global platform, and then to go for a very fast implementation everywhere in the world. You will see, for instance, our new Galaxy platform is a very good example of a new platform we've built in the past 3 years. Now we are ready for launch, and we can adapt to the different geography, and we go much faster when it's time to launch it everywhere in the world. So that notion of having global platform for local adaptation to adapt locally is very important in our overall strategy. So first pillar, which is very, very important to deliver that unique value prop to our customer, which is EcoStruxure. It's very important that we transform our R&D to make sure that from those products which are connectable to automation, to service, which are more and more digital, to software, we unify our R&D and we align all the transformation everywhere in the world. For industrial automation, for energy management, because when you go to EcoStruxure, the combination of the two is what makes Schneider Electric very, very different. The second very important pillar of our strategy is around customer-centric. I'll talk a bit later when I move to people about the unique model that we have on the people side. But the unique model of Schneider, and you know it very well, we are a very integrated company. We are a very integrated company because we want to be one Schneider for our customer, one Schneider for our employees. But it's very important that when we face our customer everywhere in the market, our commercial organization can transform this unique technology stack that I talked about into something which is unique for the customer in different parts of the world. So what I'm going to walk you through is a couple of examples on how this strategy and this technology focus is translating and is hitting the ground in front of the customer. First of all, we keep on launching many, many new products everywhere in the world. Can be product, can be software. And what is very, very important, as I said before, we don't want only those products to be connectable, but we want to make sure that they embed more and more AI capabilities. What does it mean, AI? For a company like us, AI is a unique opportunity to amplify the value to the customer. It's to make sure that we can give more to the customer with the same product in the future, and I will give you an example. The second point, which is very, very important when we hit the ground in the different part of Schneider Electric, you know probably that we were, as I said before, a company long time ago which was very much focused on product which were sold to partner, and we have developed a big part of the company which is much more end-user focused. But it's very important for us that even if sometimes, in some cases, we go directly to the market and we go straight to our end user, that we continue to develop a unique network of partners everywhere in the world. You will see in our India presentation tomorrow what Manish and Naresh will present in India. It's a unique network of capabilities that we have to bring those offers to the customer through distributor, through point of sales, through system integrator, through panel builder, and that remains a very, very strong focus for us because this is what helps us to increase our market coverage in the world. 50% of the revenue of the company are done through partner, 50% directly to the end user, and it's important for us that we keep that combination in the future. So that's the first part, which is how we bring those products to market through our partner. Second example, where we bring full solution to our customer, and which is a very interesting, of course, market, I talked about it in my introduction, is of course the data center. For those of you who have been following Schneider for a long time, I'm sure you remember the time of the acquisition of APC, which was at the beginning not an easy one, not something which was seen as a straightforward acquisition at that time. But our unique vision, again, if I come back to the beginning of my presentation, when we say we want to be a trusted digital partner for efficiency and sustainability, our vision was to create a unique portfolio of solutions where we are not just selling product or a series of products to a customer, but we can co-design the architecture of the future with our data center customer. So we have this unique portfolio of historical activity like our low voltage activity, our medium voltage, our busway, our UPS, our digital building, what we call building management system capability, and so on and so forth. And for us, it was very, very important that we have all the components that help us upfront to work with the hyperscaler and to co-design, to co-architect the data center of the future. And as you know very well, in a data center, it's not only about the reliability of your data center, of providing your data to your customer, but it's access to power, it's access to clean power, and make sure those data centers are not only reliable, but they are energy efficient. And of course, with this unique portfolio of activity, you don't have a lot of players in the market that can pretend definitely to bring all of that as one package to the customer. And it has given the opportunity in the past 3 years to sign 3 years contract with some of our large hyperscalers, which is also another form of recurring revenues for the customer, and that create a very, very strong intimacy. So we didn't want to stop just there. And as you know, a couple of weeks ago, we have decided to enrich our portfolio, because with the evolution of AI that you all know, it's very important. There are, of course, a lot of consequences of AI and what it means for data center. If I keep it short and simple, and you all know it, it means that the data center of the future will require much more power, but it will require much more cooling to be able to manage the new chips that you will have because of the new type of data center in the world. So it was very, very obvious for us that on top of our air cooling technology that we had historically created in our portfolio, it was really the time to invest more on liquid cooling. We had our own investment, but we've decided to go with the acquisition of Motiver to accelerate our time to market and to be able to help this company really to hit the ground everywhere in the world. It's a US-based company. They have massive opportunity to grow in the US, but everywhere in the world. And when you combine these liquid cooling unique capabilities that we have together with the portfolio that I described before, that position Schneider Electric ideally to capture really most of the opportunity in the next cycle. But we are going beyond that. It's not only just having the technology. We are signing partnership, for instance, with NVIDIA. We'll be with them on Thursday in Paris for the IEA event, because we want to make sure that we work upstream in the value chain, working very closely with NVIDIA to be always ahead of the game, to understand what is the next generation of technology that we'll bring to the market, because it will have an immediate consequence on the design of the data center of the future. And that's what we want to make sure that we are always ahead of the game to bring the latest technology, the best technology with all the hyperscalers in the world. So when you combine the previous portfolio that I've described, what we are doing with Motiver, the co-design that we are doing in architecture with NVIDIA, the launching that I mentioned of the new Galaxy platform, and the fact that we have invested, by the way, in India, also in a new cooling factory, that give us the confidence that we are in an ideal position to make the most of the next wave that we have in front of us in data center. The next example that I want to give you on how we are hitting the ground with all those technology, you heard me since the beginning talking a lot about services, talking a lot about digital services. I'm sure By now, you know that Schneider Electric in the past 5-10 years probably has put a lot of focus on field services, being able not to be a solution provider only, but being able to stay with our customer across the life cycle. So we have developed already a very important field services opportunity with our customer. But together with the evolution of the technology, we wanted to go one step beyond. So we wanted to make sure that we can really create more intimacy with our customer across the life cycle. And it starts by eco-consulting activity, where we go everywhere in the world and we consult our customer on energy efficiency, on sustainability. Of course, you imagine it takes a very different form if you are with SME in a country or if you are enterprise across different geographies. EcoCare that I'm going to describe in a minute, which is a core of the engine. And last but not the least, also EcoFit, which are unique capabilities we have in different parts of the world to retrofit existing installation we have sold 10, 20, 30 years ago in different parts of the world. So let me take you to EcoCare. What is EcoCare? Because I think it's important really that you understand the logic of what we are doing and how we create value at the end of the day for our customer and value financially for the company. EcoCare is very, very simple. We start, and I said it several times, we make sure we make all our products connectable by design. So for instance, if you take a medium voltage switchgear like this one, you will see some of them in the back of the room. We've made sure that all the new generation, and we have moved from the old generation of Schneider Electric, of Areva, to create a completely new range, which is the AirSet range. We make sure that every single breaker that we launch now is connectable. And we put a certain number of sensors inside that breaker, which are connectable at the time of the installation. The point which is very, very important is not only making sure that the technology is available, but making sure that with our commercial people, we attach at the time we sell those systems to the customer a quotation for EcoCare. It's very, very important because we've learned from the past, if you don't miss the opportunity when you sell the equipment, it's too late. So we attach systematically with EcoCare, for EcoCare, a contract when we sell new equipment to our customer. And then, once a customer has signed the contract, they are onboarded by our customer success manager. So we have different of those CSM everywhere in the world. We have one actually in Bangalore. So there is an automatic onboarding with the customer. And then we give access also to the customer to a direct access to our L2 level where they can have access to a certain number of support. Most important, what we do through this EcoCare contract, we provide peace of mind to our customer, which means that we have a 24/7 access to their installation. And you imagine that those medium voltage equipment that you see in the back, they are sitting in very, very critical application. They can be in hospital, they can be in data center, they can be in many, many critical applications. So we provide peace of mind to our customer by making sure that we are monitoring all the possible defects which are happening. But we are also going one step further. If we anticipate an erosion of one component, we are able to signal to the customer that in 3 months, 6 months, 12 months from now, you will have to call for a service engineer for a retrofit. So by doing that, we are creating a completely new value prop for our customer. We give them access to unique analytics. They can use it by themselves, of course, but also our CSM have access on a permanently basis, on a day-to-day basis, to make sure they can monitor. We can go up to the level to monitor the health of the asset for the customer. I've given you an example for medium voltage equipment. We do the same with our Galaxy range with UPS. And what is very, very important, if I come back to my presentation on the technology side, you don't want to sell one equipment with one type of digital expense on one side, a UPS with a very different one. In the past 3 years, what was very important for us is not only to make sure we create that connectivity, but to make sure we use the same protocol, the same gateway, which means that when it arrives to the customer, you have one unique value proposition for customer. Now, you can tell me there will be always other players in the market that can do it, but when you are in the example of the data center, you don't have a lot of companies in the world who can co-design data center of the future and can provide this type of unique contract where you combine all the health of your medium voltage equipment, your UPS, your cooling technology, and so on and so forth. So that creates a unique value proposition, of course, for our customer, which is translated in recurring revenues for Schneider Electric. That's why we're quite ambitious on the way we can develop the company. And as you imagine, it creates a very strong intimacy with our customer, because once you are in, if there is any opportunity of retrofitting, of expansion, you are the first supplier that your customer will call. So it looks like a very simple thing, but that's something on the technology side that we have been building over the past cycle, not only creating the connectivity, making sure you have the sensor, making sure you have all the software applications which are available, the platform, but making sure that we converge all the assets or all the products we have in the company. So we have a couple of examples in the company going in that direction. We have the example, for instance, that we have here with one of a very important company in India. But I wanted to share with you a very interesting example, which is a combination of what I explained to you on the data center and services. Tomorrow we'll explain to you a little bit more what we are doing with Capgemini in India. You've seen probably a press release which was 1 year ago, a little bit less, where we talked about the energy command center. This is a very, very interesting example because that go one level beyond. You have the case of a company which is Capgemini, very well known by all of you. Worldwide, they are looking at their ESG strategy. The CEO wants to create a strong focus on ESG 3 years ago. And he starts to look at what is really this net zero, what is the commitment we need to take, and very quickly, long story short, he understands that CO2 emission is related to energy. Where are my scope 1 and 2 emissions when you are a company like Capgemini? Basically, the biggest part of their energy consumption is in this country. They have 23 campuses, which include 70 buildings in the country. And at that point of time, we have some discussion at the consulting level. We sit together with our India team, and we enter and we walk inside, and then we look at the opportunity. And what do we do, basically? We make sure that we connect all existing assets, where they have a lot of product from Schneider Electric, but not only. We help them to install a certain number of other assets. You have to know that in all those buildings in India, they have office building, but they have also data center. That's why it's very interesting for us as a business case, because they have any kind of building that you can imagine. So we are able not only to sell our product, to make sure we sell all our automation. They are using EBO, which is our software platform for digital building, to converge all the data. And then we sign an EcoCare contract because we provide them, again, peace of mind. And of course, it's great to do it with Capgemini because they have their system integration capability, and we can do basically a full energy command center to help Capgemini to control all their energy consumption in India. Outcome, 30% energy saving. The local team is extremely happy. The CEO is on the way to achieve their CO2 emission goal. And that creates, you can imagine, a very different relationship when we do that with the customer. So this example is very interesting because it's a full Monty where you combine all the product of Schneider Electric, the equipment, going up to the service level with one customer. Last but not the least, in how we are hitting the ground in front of our customer. As you know, we have built this unique, of course, software business at Schneider Electric with AVEVA, RIB, and ETAP. And we went last year to the next level by creating our new industrial intelligence platform, which is Connect, where we want to make sure we give our opportunity to our customer to consume more software coming from Schneider Electric. Very simply, the way we are doing it is we try to have a strategy where we follow the life cycle of our customer from design, build to operate and optimize. And what we have been doing is basically to assemble a unique portfolio of software that we've done mainly through acquisition. But at the end of the day, what is very important is to make sure that it's easy to consume for our customer. Because you can have the best portfolio of software. If you just leave it here, it's not going to happen. So Connect basically help our customer to have the same identification, to have the same digital experience, to have the same commercial strategy when you enter with one software and you can consume more of all the software capability that we have within one software. We do it, of course, for the scope of one software, which is, again, AVEVA, ETAP, RIB. But everything that I've described before to you about EcoStruxure, where we are moving through the full stack of EcoStruxure, we have also in the historical portfolio of Schneider Electric, both in energy management and IA, a certain number of software that our customer can also access through that Connect platform. What is very, very important, we want to make also that platform agnostic to make sure that we can also have third-party partner to make sure, again, that we bring, again, the most of the value for our customer. And of course, that creates a very, very different positioning because we are combining on one side engineering information, operation of information, and we can help our customer through the life cycle to have access to this full ecosystem and to optimize their solution. And you will discover in the back of this room, but also tomorrow, a certain number of examples, and I have a couple of them here, where we show all the capabilities which are delivered to EDF, SNG, but I would like to mention Dr. Reddy. Dr. Reddy, I don't know if you know, is a large pharmaceutical company, and by the way, some of their biggest factories are here in Hyderabad. So tomorrow you will visit the smart factory of Schneider Electric, but Dr. Reddy has one of their smart factory which has been recognized as a lighthouse where we have been contributing through our entire portfolio to make it happen, and we are quite proud of that example. So if I recap, very strong focus on all the technology transformation and positioning of our portfolio, connecting all the different parts of the portfolio, making sure we drive this R&D transformation. Second part, making sure we hit the ground with one-stop solution to our customer, with a very strong customer-centric approach, thanks to our different commercial organization. But for me, what is very important, the presentation could not finish here, is that we have two pillars in our strategy which are very, very important. We have been managing this company for a long time, I would say already. We are probably one of the first companies in the world to introduce that idea of CSR when it was really at the early stage. But for us, the concept of an impact company is very, very simple. First of all, we believe in performance because performance is the only way to impact. There are always, in some part of the world, people who are always opposing performance in ESG. We don't. Performance is basically the right to play, the right of doing good. Second point, which was very important in our strategy, and Amit, you were mentioning it in your introduction, we are working on impact on all our stakeholders. Of course, our investors, our customers, our employees, but we are doing a lot of work, for instance, with Mourad to embark all our suppliers in this journey. This is something which is very important. Our entire ecosystem of partners working also with government in different parts of the world to make sure we help them to build standards on energy efficiency and so on and so forth. So the recipe for success for us has been to make sure that all our ecosystem, all our partners are involved. What has been also very, very important is focus on the different pillars of ESG, environment, governance, of course, but also social. And at the end of the day, of course, what has made Schneider Electric unique, and we've got a certain number of awards in the past year, this year again, and most sustainable company in the world, it's not only that we are trying to be role model in everything we do on ESG for Schneider Electric, but we are, of course, part of the solution for our customer. And that's what makes Schneider Electric very, very different. And if you talk, by the way, to many of our employees everywhere in the world, they will tell you I've joined Schneider Electric because of the ESG commitment, and I'm staying at Schneider Electric because of the unique positioning of the company. So that's very, very important in our DNA, and we'll continue, of course, in the next cycle to deliver our net zero commitment. So we were one of the first companies in the world to sign to be net zero and to be recognized by SBTi, to have our target recognized by SBTi. And we have a very strong commitment on the scope 1, 2, and 3 that we are delivering. And as I said before, we are doing it through different parts of the company, through the value we bring to our customers, so making sure that every single offer that we launch can help our customer to save and avoid CO2 emission, embarking our employee in the journey. And we have also our very, very well-known program that we are doing with our supplier, the Net Zero Carbon Project, where we've decided 4 years ago to embark our supplier to commit to divide by 2 their CO2 emission, which help us, of course, to reduce drastically our scope 3 upstream emission as a company. And it has been one of the most probably advanced program at that time with the partnership of Mourad, which is, by the way, for your information, a program which we designed with our consulting team in sustainability and that we have been able to sell to other customers, because the benefit is when you are one of the most advanced companies in sustainability, you practice on yourself, but that gives you a lot of ideas, of course, on what you can do for our customer. So we'll continue to mobilize all our customers. Amit said it, we are in the last year of our previous SSI. Actually, 2025 will be the last year. We are committed to deliver our target, but more important, we are redefining while we speak what should be our commitment by 2030 to keep Schneider Electric ahead of the game. Last pillar, which is extremely important, you know, it's good to talk about technology, to talk about customer, to talk about all the ecosystem. At the end of the day, for us, all of that is possible thanks to the unique mobilization we have from our employees everywhere in the world. What I would like to leave you to today is the way we run the company and the way we will continue to run of the company. Most of you are famous by now on how we run Schneider Electric, but this multi-hub concept that we have created is unique. And we are not just doing it for the sake of doing it or just for the fun, because it's completely connected to the strategy of the company. If I come back to what I told you since the beginning, we want to be one Schneider in front of our customer, which means that we want to have one set of technology that speak to each other that our salespeople can bring to the customer. And of course, if you benchmark Schneider Electric with other multinationals, that's kind of unique setup that we have built. But to make this setup a reality in different parts of the world, we have opted 10 years plus for this multi-hub model where we want to make sure we create unique capabilities in North America, in China, in India, and of course in Europe historically, where we assemble leaders from R&D, supply chain, and local commercial team to work together and to be as close as possible to our customer. It has multiple benefits. There is one which is obvious. You understand really well the needs of India market, for instance, and you are much faster at developing solutions from the India market. But think about it from an employee standpoint. When you work for a large multinational, what is the old model? The old model, you work in different parts of the world, but you have always to go back to the headquarters to get authorization. For us, when you work in all those different parts of the company, in India, in China, US, or Europe, you are empowered locally to make decisions. It gives you the ability to move very, very fast, but also it's a strong empowerment and accountability. And from a people standpoint, what does it create? It creates a very strong attraction in the different markets where we operate, but a very strong retention because the people, they are empowered. And as you know, with the multi-hub setup, since we have distributed all our global position, people can grow at Schneider Electric without going to the headquarters. You know that our previous chairman and CEO, Jean-Pascal Tricoire, who moved to Hong Kong at that point of time to create that multi-hub setup. I was in Hong Kong for 10 years and I relocated 18 months ago to Dubai because Middle East was a new hub for Schneider. You have a couple of my colleagues of the ExCom here. It's interesting because you have Manish leading international ops being based in Singapore, Hilary, our CFO that you know very well, being based in Paris, and Mourad, who is our global supply chain leader based in Hong Kong. So that's a unique setup that we are creating to make sure that we distribute our global capability, but again, we give opportunities to our employees everywhere in the world to deliver one unique value to our customer, to be more agile and strong again capacity to retain. And of course, what does it mean? By being an integrated company, when you work at Schneider, you work for Schneider first, so you can enter in supply chain, you can move to sales, you can move to different part of the company. And probably, I don't like to speak too much about myself, but I'm the best example probably of that as a French guy who moved to China, to India, to Middle East, doing HR, sales, technology, strategy, and so on and so forth. But that's a real unique value proposition of Schneider on the people side. So when you look at what does it mean in numbers, it means that we are always very conscious to have a very, very balanced footprint when it comes to the number of employees that we have in front everywhere in the world. And of course, it has to match somewhere the revenues that we have in our company. And of course, across cycle, it might change. But what is very important is to stay consistent. Many of you know that, for instance, China growth was a bit flattish in the past cycle. We still have great R&D capabilities in China that we don't want to lose, and we continue to invest. It's important for China, but it supports the rest of the world, and so on and so forth. Last but not the least, we continue to engage our employees in this journey by providing opportunity to invest in Schneider through our employee shareholding plan every year. 61% participation, it's quite large. which means that year on year we have been able to increase the ratio, which means our people believe in our story. At the end of the day, it's very important for us. Most of our employees being impacted by our sustainability performance through short-term but also long-term incentive plan. And we continue to put a very strong focus on diversity, gender diversity, but any kind of diversity at Schneider. And by the way, just to connect with what I told you before, when you have a multi-hub setup, it just helps you to attract different nationalities everywhere in the world and to retain them. But it has a very strong impact also on gender diversity and to help all our women leaders to continue to grow at Schneider Electric, and we've seen the benefit. And as a result of that, we are very pleased, of course, to report that our engagement continues to increase, and we have a very strong workforce everywhere in the world, which is quite committed to the company. This is recognized outside. It's great. We always love those recognition. It's not probably what is our obsession, but we like to see it. It's a great recognition that the work we have been doing in the past year on the technology, on the customer side, and everything we do on ESG and people is well appreciated by outside. And it's important, of course, for a company like Schneider. We were starting this meeting by talking about India. I can tell you I landed in India in 2007, nobody knew what was Schneider Electric. Schneider Electric is one of the most powerful employee brand now in the market, which help us to attract, of course, the best talent when we hire outside. So those recognition are, of course, a good reflection of the good job we have been doing, and they help us to develop Schneider Electric for the next stage. So that's what I wanted to share with you. To summarize, a market that we see full opportunity. We are committed to what we told you 1 year ago in terms of strategy, positioning, ambition, top line, bottom line, and a very strong focus to keep on transforming our company on technology, on customer, ESG, and people to make sure we stay ahead of the game and we can continue to deliver strong results. I will stop here. Thank you very much, and I will hand over back to you, Amit.